So now the main course, Tim, N3QE. Um, you know, I keep saying excited. That's my word for today, apparently. Uh, What's really cool is that this is the sneak peek of what he's going to be doing at Hamvention. So those of us that didn't get to go, we get to see it live anyways. The next thing that I'm most excited about is hearing how he does the vocal inflection of the annoyed Tina that you start to hear, when you're waiting in line, as he's repeating the same thing over and over again to the guy that just cannot get either the number or the check or whatever. And that really amused me a couple weeks ago. I think it was 2 months ago that I heard it. So without further ado, I'm gonna let him. I'm gonna stop sharing, and I'm gonna let him take the wheel.
All right, let me figure out how to share sound. Okay, I think I turned on share sound. Let's go. And I don't want to share the whole screen. I just want to share. Let's try this one more time. Share PowerPoint, share sound. All right, let's see what we got. Okay, you can see what I got?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All right. You guys are 5'9" in Maryland, by the way. Thanks for inviting me. And as David pointed out, this is a preview of what I'm going to present at Hamvention. I've been giving this talk a couple times internally to PVRC. I'm glad to start showing it around and let everybody know the man behind the curtain working Tina. I want to point out that while I'm talking about some modern AI keying innovations, PVRCers have been innovating in contest keying for most of a century now. This here is the code wheel of W4KFC, one of PVRC's founding, a CQ wheel of W4KFC, Vic Clark, one of PVRC's founding members. It's a gear motor rotating a pie plate in which Vic cut out dad-a-dad-it, dad-a-dad-dad, did-it, did-it. This is his CQ sweepstakes pie wheel, CQ machine. Similarly, I would say that a lot of the work I've been doing in developing the technology behind my AI op, Tina, that I'm cobbling together readily available technologies, except instead of being mid 20th century technologies, they're 2025 technologies. For transmitting, Tina uses generative AI for text to speech for 100% of contest voicing, both search and pounce and running. On receive, I have a running dialogue window, which is not particularly good at picking out voices and turning them into speech to text in less than ideal contest conditions, but it's a technology that I hope to develop more in the future. There's a number of glue technologies I'm going to introduce you to. One is wave file voicing and N1MM. The scripting I use to make all the waves. In fact, I have close to 150,000 waves that I used in WPX phone. A little bit of the analysis I've done pulling calls out of speech to text. Speech to text. A recent addition to the Shack, N1MM, had been promoting it on the N1MM list and dropping hints as how to integrate it with your Shack, the Stream Deck. It makes a large library of wave messages easily accessible. And finally, there's me, the real human operator, sitting in between all this technology, doing a contest. In the 21st century, 90% plus of running stations are using computer keying for all phases of run and search and pounce. All major loggers support CW keying built right into the logger. In phone, most running stations have a CQ loop at the ready. A purely search and pounce station who wanted to get by with automated keying can get by with two messages, call and exchange, and a simple contest that's basically call sign only, like CQ Worldwide. However, all modern rigs support built-in EVK, and contesting programs can play pre-recorded audio messages as audio files. Those are pretty common abilities in 2025 loggers. When it came time to synthesis, there are two approaches. One is to synthesize your own voice into some perfect version of your voice. You can supply audio samples of your voice to a text-to-speech vendor. They apply their tech, and at either low cost with no tweaks or high cost with extensive tweaks, make an AI model of your voice. 11 Labs is an example of this at the low end. If you do this through the Google options, you're going to be paying tens of thousands of dollars. With this, you can synthesize arbitrary text-to-speech using the vendor's clone of your voice. This is an advantage if you're intermingling synthesized voice keying with your own live voice. The other approach, the one that I took, is to use a stock voice synthesized. All the major vendors have dozens of voices available in many languages. The best quality voice libraries are trained on professional speakers and tweaked by experts to maximize intelligibility. The voices tend to be rather neutral accents for the country that they represent. Several vendors offer multiple target devices for many voices. I'll talk about that in a little bit. The disadvantage of this is it's not your voice, it's the stock voice. The advantage of this is it's not your voice, it's the stock voice. If you want to play around with synthesizing voice libraries, there are free, all the vendors, that's Amazon Poly, 11 Labs, Google Text-to-Speech, offer free web demos with a large number of choices. There's a limited access to the SSML speech markup, but there's some access and some access to profiles. If you want to pay or at least register, then you can begin using the API to mass produce WAV files. The pricing models are all over the place from different vendors, but Google Cloud and Amazon Poly are offering 1 million to 5 million characters free per month, depending on the features you choose. And synthesizing every call sign in SuperCheck Partial, all 50,000 calls, is a couple million characters. You can do that for free in your monthly allotment by signing up for a Google Cloud account. Early on, back in 2017, I made the choice of an XYL voice. It was an NAQP I contested with the name Tina. Starts with TI like Tim, and then it diverges just a little. I've entered 6 SSB contests since 2018 using advancing synthesis technologies and experience. 3 of them are North American QSO parties. And they're a great proving ground for a set of macros because you're interacting with a variety of newbie and expert contesters. NAQPs are great, man. I've entered 1 serial number contest in a foreign language, worked all Germany 2024. Worked WPX SSB was the big one. I'll bet you that's where you heard me work me, David. And I also did the SSB sprint in March of 2025. Since I made this slide deck, I was in Florida for Florida QSO party. Tina did a couple hundred phone QSOs while I was sitting at a picnic table in a state park. So let's test my ability to play audio. That's going to be important. Google Cloud Synthesis offers 32 different female US English voices. Let's play some of them, and I'll tell you why I chose the one at the bottom. I'm going to ask if you can hear those.
CQCQ North America from N3QE, November 3, Quebec Echo.
Loud and clear. Okay, so
Heard it.
excellent, excellent. So that's sort of the most standard voice that Google text-to-speech offers. Here's another of the more standard voices they offer.
CQCQ North America from N3QE, November 3, Quebec Echo.
Those both are perfectly intelligible, but they don't sound very excited. You like to have your CQ message sound exciting. Let's see what this third option, the one that I actually use on the air, sounds like.
CQCQ North America from N3QE, November 3 Quebec Echo.
I like that voice myself. It's got more inflection, and it's the one that I've did the most development work with.
CQC.
All right.
Can I ask a quick question, Tim?
Go right ahead, Barry.
So I'm assuming that once you do this, you're running the female voice in the voice keyer on a sideband contest. Is that what you're saying?
That's right. This is for I've occasionally used the name Tina in a CW or RIDI contest, but mostly Tina's for phone. Yes.
The reason I ask is I've always thought that, a wild voice is worth a few more dB technically or not technically. So what impact do you think this has? in a contest, or do you know?
That's a great point. Let me tell you, it's great to be. Most of my experience has been running, but I've done some search and pounce. It's always great when there's a pile up and the guy CQing comes back. Okay, the YL, please, and that's me. Um, Kind of broadly, I honestly believe there's an advantage to using a YL's voice. It's hard to quantify, though. I would have to, if I wanted to do a true A/B test, two almost identical stations would have to be running in the same contest
Yeah.
by operators of the same skill level, one using a male synthesized voice, another using a female synthesized voice. That would be a great experiment and see if, oh, there's hams who only call YLs. They won't call anybody else. That's probably the case. But yeah, I do have there's some ability to do data mining of public logs and see if there is such an example of that.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay. So of all the different voices out there from different providers, my taste strongly favors the WaveNet voices from Google text to speech. WaveNet is generative AI introduced in 2016. It's a neural net that's been trained with actual speech from professional speakers. The neural net is actually generating a waveform based on the sounds it was trained on. It's a great technology. If you train it with a voice with an accent, it learns the accent. Um, there's some academic papers where they trained it on piano or violin, and it makes piano and violin noises instead. So it's an interesting thing. The first implementations were too computationally intensive to be practical, but like a lot of AI things, the training is the truly energy and computation intensive process. After you've got a neural net trained, applying it in mass production is relatively straightforward and cheap. And that's where the breakthroughs were made in 2018, 2019. So I like the WaveNet voices. The 11 Labs has their own AI voices that use a technology very similar to WaveNet. Poly, I don't know too much about, but I think some of the voices are generative AI trained on real voices as well. So all of my synthesis is done in the cloud. I send requests to my provider, Google, to turn text into speech. The result of the request is launched and I get a WAV file back. Different vendors have similar but not entirely identical APIs. So I don't need a supercomputer in my shack. All I need is something that can make web requests. This strongly encourages pre-synthesis of all messages. Although I want to point out that on-the-fly synthesis is not ruled out. I just haven't done it myself. I use scripts to automate my vocabulary development in advance of a contest, and you can shop between vendors for the voice and features you like. An important thing that I discovered is that my provider offers a telephony profile. Most providers like providing great high bandwidth audio using the full audio spectrum. It's great for web and in-car users, but not the best choice for a sideband contest. With several of its voices, Google text-to-speech offers the telephony profile. It's optimized for limited bandwidth, high talk power, and it's a great start for sideband contest synthesis. So let's talk a little bit about how we get the inflections in the voice and how you can make your CQ and other common messages be particularly appealing, and especially you sort of have to use an inflection at the end to let people know that, okay, it's their turn to go now. Nobody says over in contesting. You got to have an inflection in your voice to tell people. So this is if you took the most straightforward CQ message and just typed it in and synthesized it, this is what you get.
N3QE November 3 Quebec Echo CQ Contest.
And that's probably not too bad, but you can do better. The stuff in the angle brackets is SSML. It lets you, it's speech markup language. It lets you give a hint to the synthesizer how you would like it to be done. I also include some commas and a question mark. Those are also hints to the synthesizer that instead of doing something flat, it should do the speech patterns that indicate a pause, and a question, almost all of my messages end with question mark or exclamation point. So let's listen to that.
N3QE, November 3 Quebec Echo, CQ contest.
Just for sharp,
N3QE, November 3 Quebec Echo, CQ contest.
that was that without the inflections. And finally, the commas introduce more delay than a sideband contester would like, so you can skip over that by doing some wave editing.
N3QE, November 3 Quebec Echo, CQ contest.
So that's one of my standard canned CQ messages. If you want to see a library of messages that I used in NAQP, you'll note that I have 2 messages for every possible function. And in N1MM, you can use the very message macro to alternate between them. So I have 2 different CQs. I have different ways. I can use different phonetics for my call sign. I can ask for name and state repeats. I can give my name using 2 different ways and the state using 2 different ways. So doubling up and having 2 possible messages for almost everything is great, because if you play the exact same WAV file over and over again, that's not really the most productive use of you can do. You would like to state it a little differently so that the guy's ear might have a better chance to latch on to something the second time around. Okay, let me talk to you a little bit about the post-processing I do. First of all, here's a message. Here's something synthesized by Google text-to-speech in the telephony profile.
Kilo Alpha Zero Papa Quebec Whiskey.
Okay, this is the same thing, but with some bandwidth limiting. So this is getting down to the sideband bandwidth.
Kilo Alpha Zero Papa Quebec Whiskey.
I can start applying some of the Heil HC5 effects by cutting the bass and boosting the treble a lot.
Kilo Alpha Zero Papa Quebec Whiskey.
And then I can apply some leveling to boost the talk power.
Kilo Alpha Zero Papa Quebec Whiskey.
And that's 3 or 4 different types of optimization in terms of the post-processing. It's very easy to do too much post-processing. You sound like a guy who has this processor cranked way beyond any reasonable amount.
Kilo Alpha Zero Papa Quebec Whiskey.
Okay, so I like to have a nice clean sound. I like to have syllabication. Those are good things, good points to apply, whether you're using a synthesizer or processing your own voice. Let me talk to you about the call sign voicing. When you're running, you have to voice the other guy's call sign. You want to do it efficiently. You want to do it in a way he'll recognize. So the most primitive way of doing it, and N1MM supports this just fine, is to synthesize 26 letters and 10 digits and let those individual WAV files get concatenated in order to voice your caller's call sign.
Kilo Oscar 4 Uniform Oscar Juliet.
That's nice and high-fi, but it's very robotic sounding. You can also pre-synthesize a large library of prefixes and all the possible suffixes. That's a huge improvement.
Kilo Oscar 4 Uniform Oscar Juliet.
And finally, you can, so there is a little bit of a shift in between the prefix and the suffix, but it's not at all bad. However, even more optimal is to synthesize everything in SuperCheck partial. That's slickest, no pause, very natural.
Kilo Oscar 4 Uniform Oscar Juliet.
So if you're on for a phone contest and you're CQing, very likely 80% or more of your callers are going to be in SuperCheck partial. Those that aren't, you have to synthesize from the prefix and suffix. So should you use synthesized voice contest voicing? Maybe if you're excited by the tech and want to learn about speech synthesis. I've learned a lot. That's what ham radio is all about. Maybe you have a shack in a high audio noise environment. Maybe it's a multi-op and everybody else is shouting. And at the very minimum, you need decent keyboarding skills. Definitely, I would say that if you want to be if you're a remote op and you want 0 transmit audio latency, you have all your synthesized sound files stored at the remote location where your radio is, and you don't have to use any bandwidth or latency when keying that radio. If you want a sideband contest late in the night without waking up your family, and this is the killer app. SO2R ops with synthesized keying can be, entirely devoted to listening to a second radio while they're transmitting working people giving their call signs and exchanges on the first radio. This is the killer app. And finally, if you're going to be doing SO2R with this, you need absolutely superb keyboarding skills. There's no two ways about it because there's no two ways about it. You need superb keyboarding skills. Here's an example of the scripting I use. I happen to know some Perl. This is how I string together the NATO phonetics to generate call sign waves from supercheck partial and the NATO phonetics. The inputs and outputs to synthesizing voice this way. I recommend having, a dozen or 2 dozen function key macros, primary and an alternate for everything. You need the 26 letters as the phonetic alphabet, plus the 10 digits, plus the stroke for those guys working portable. I strongly recommend that beyond that, you have all 50,000 call signs in supercheck partial, pre-synthesized, all the common prefixes and all possible 1, 2, and 3 character suffixes. If it's a serial number contest, you also need 1 to the highest likely serial number you'll give, and you need to choose your voice and voice profile. If you run these through my scripts, you end up with a couple dozen wave files, which are your function key messages. You end up with 70,000 call sign and call sign fragments, and that's more than a gigabyte of wave files. I post-process each wave using a script that eliminates pauses, puts it down to the sideband passband, does the bass cut and high boost, and does the audio leveling. When I've been using this in an attempt to be, hi-fi and high clarity, the moderate processing I apply in audio to the wave files is all my speech processing. I have the speech processor on my rig turned off. So here's a demo. Let's see if I can play it.
November 3 Quebec Echo, Norway 3 Queen Ecuador, CQ contest. CQ-CQNA from N3QE, November 3 Quebec Echo. Kilo 3, Lima Romeo, Kina, TINA, Maryland MD. Thanks and good luck, Q or Z? November 3 Quebec Echo, Norway 3 Queen Ecuador, CQ contest. Kilo 3 Alpha Juliet, this is Tina, Tango India November Alpha, in Maryland. Can you please repeat your name? Your name again? Thank you in 7-3, CQ North America from November 3 Quebec Echo. CQ-CQNA from N3QE, November 3 Quebec Echo. Whiskey 1, Alpha Whiskey, this is Tina, Tango India November Alpha, in Maryland. Tina, TINA. The state is Maryland, Mike Delta. Thank you in 7-3, CQ North America from November 3 Quebec Echo.
Okay, so the nice thing about that demo is that it shows the alternating CQ messages. It shows that I have alternate ways of giving the standard first time round exchange, asking for fills, giving fills. I think it's all very important to have at least 2 different ways of voicing each of those.
Thank you.
Okay. So my big effort and the one where people began noticing me on social media is when I was working WPX phone. I made a substantial effort. I spent a good chunk of the week in advance of WPX phone synthesizing libraries. You can hear me working VIC VE3YT over the air on 40 meters here.
Thank you. 365, you are 59104.
Your number again?
Heading in number 104.
Thanks. CQ contest from Norway 3 Queen Ecuador.
Victor Echo 3 Yankee Tango.
Victor Echo 3 Yankee Tango, 59366.
Thanks, Tina, 59146.
Thanks, Vic. Thanks, Q or Z? Whiskey 4 Golf Delta Victor 59367.
Okay, so you heard some of the advanced functions I was using in WPX Phone. Let me talk about some of the extra work I did in setting up for a contest where I was going to make more than 2,000 QSOs. I made sure I had different ways to voice, 3 different ways to voice any caller's call. One was alternate phonetics at 80% speed. I call that slow. So for example, Norway 1, Mexico, Mexico. Standard NATO phonetics at regular speed was the stock message, November 1, Mike, Mike, and just letters, no phonetics, 120% speed, N1MM. And I had 3 different ways of phrasing every number. Well, any number that has more than 2 digits. The fastest combo would be to give it as 2448. Standard digits, which actually is the most standard way to give serial numbers on the air, 2448, and spoken out 2448. So those are all 3 different ways of doing it, especially after you start getting above 1500 or so. Having the emphasizing that you're in the thousands is an important clue to your caller that they're copying a 4-digit serial number and not a 3-digit serial number. So let me, and importantly, because I had all these different alternate voicings, I needed a better way for my brain other than just the function keys to access all these functions. So I'm going to show you the Stream Deck integration I did for WPX1.
N3QE contest. CQ November 3 Quebec Echo. CQ contest from N3QE, November 3 Quebec Echo. November 3 Quebec Echo, Norway 3 Queen Ecuador, CQ contest. Q or Z? Again your call. November 1 Mike Mike 592448. N1MM 592448. Norway 1 Mexico Mexico 292448. Thanks, Tom.
Okay, so you see there some of the integration I did with Stream Deck. Some of the stat smarts resides in the Stream Deck app. Some of the smarts reside in the UDP messages that the Stream Deck map sends to N1MM. That's an almost undocumented feature of N1MM. And some of the smarts is done by a helper process. For example, I have a helper process if I want to thank somebody by name that lets me send their name, even though that's not actually an N1MM function. There are some AI hallucinations. WaveNet and other AI voices were trained on real-world pronunciation, and they might produce unexpected voicings. One of the most trivial examples, I would normally say K1AR's call is Kilo 1 Alpha Romeo. But if you want to hear how WaveNet pronounced it,
Kilo 1 Alpha Romeo.
because of course Alpha followed by Romeo sounds like the Italian car. There's other examples too. That's just the one that struck me as the most pedestrian. So you can you might think how all your pre-synthesized things are going to sound, but you will probably be surprised in the course of a contest at how the pre-trained library used an example from real life that you didn't think of. I can tell you that there's a higher level of AI neural voices available from Google text-to-speech. Those I have big problems with. For example, if I try to say November 5 Alpha Uniform, it's more likely to come out 5th of November Alpha Uniform. It's trying to be too smart for me. WaveNet, it's a good level of smartness for where I am.
Kilo.
So astoundingly enough, even though I made almost 2,500 QSOs in WPX Phone using Latina voice synthesis, some folks found made recordings of me on the air and put them on Facebook. They put them on Reddit. These videos have tens of thousands of views, many more people than I worked on the air. And they get all kinds of peanut gallery comments. Let's talk about some of the comments people said. This is probably being used for female voice to get more rate. My answer is yes, absolutely. Is it legal to use an AI? Well, I told you what I'm using the AI for. Some people simply detest AI. Some of them were very nice comments. Courteous, clear, and concise communication sounds great. Here's a guy asking, how did the AI take and pass the amateur radio exam and get a license issued to it? Using AI is cheating, should not be allowed. AI is garbage. Here's one fellow. I worked that one and wondered what was up with that voice. I'll be deleting it from my logs before I upload. And finally, and this is something I'm proud of because I put a lot of effort into the intelligibility of my files. I could understand the voice perfectly, unlike everyone else that I couldn't understand. So what are the rules regarding AI? Most contest rules are silent on computer voice keying. The one exception, the WRTC 2022 competition rules required call signs to be spoken by the operator, although 5928 and CQ loops could be pre-recorded. CQ worldwide rules, you're assisted if you use any technology that provides the call sign of a signal to the operator. The CW decoder is given as an example, but it's obvious to me that this would also apply to speech-to-text tools. The ARRL-DX rules say, current ARRL-DX rules say single channel decoders allowed for unassisted ops. Again, they're thinking about CW and RTTY decoders, but if I'm using speech recognition, then I believe that multi-channel decoders would indeed put me into the assisted category. So those are the rules as they existed a month ago. Let me tell you something that's happened since. The January 2025 meeting of the ARRL Programs and Services Committee adopted a recommendation of the contest board. They determined that any use of AI during contests will place the station in the assisted or unlimited category. With so little known about using AI in contests, it is impossible to develop rules concerning the use of AI coupled with these rules will be mostly unenforceable.
Can I
That
ask
may
a
be.
question?
Oh, go ahead.
I'm actually confused by the fact that people believe that you use AI. You use AI to generate those text files, but you could as well just record them yourself, or I don't know, ask any other female to read all those like thousands of call signs, and you would be even better, you know. You would get even better sounding voice. So AI here is really just for generating this audio files.
That's all. That's almost the only use I make of AI. I'll talk a little bit about the others. AI has meant different things over the years. The tools I'm using, both text to speech and speech to text, are genuinely AI technologies. They've been just like ChatGPT or other large language models. They were trained on real human products, professional speakers, audio files. Customers of Google, all those things were used to train it. To think that AI is just Chat GPT type technologies is, I think, a little restrictive. At the same time, there have been other revolutions in contesting that seem much more major than this that don't put you in the assisted category. Using a computer contest logger that has built-in super check partial and checks for dupes, dupes for you, that was a huge step forward. And I think that any contribution or enhancement you get from using AI is going to be tiny compared to that. A lot of people think that not many contesters, but a lot of non-contesters think it's wrong to send CW unless you're sending it with a paddle or a straight key. They think computer keying is fake and unfair. So there's a wide variety of different opinions, and we'll have to see where things settle down. So I haven't seen this appear in the ARRL rule sets yet. However, this was a recommendation of the Contest Advisory Committee accepted by the Program Services Committee.
Well, the point I was trying to make is that this rule, as far as I can tell, is not applicable to your use of AI. It says use of AI during contest. You're not using AI during contest, unless I misunderstand how exactly you use it. But you're using AI before the contest, and during the contest, you only use the recorded files. And so, strictly speaking, you're not using AI during the contest.
That would be one interpretation, yes. So they're gonna if they decide to start writing this into the rules for the contest, we'll have to see what it looks like. Considering that you can self-spot in all ARRL contests for the past couple of years, this this seems like squabbling over something far less important to me. I don't hide that I used AI technologies making the WAV files. I also use some AI technologies as a running speech to text window. It's not rarely is it better than my ears, but there were several times during WPX phone, I was on for 36 hours. If you're on the air for 36 hours, your brain is going to occasionally go out to lunch. And having the running speech to text decoder window in the background helped remind me where I was, or that, oh yeah, I have to log that guy now, when my brain went out to lunch. So that was an advantage. Again, I'm using AI as an I'm using AI techniques, but I'm not using Chat GPT or a large language model. And that's what most of the discussion is about AI today. Let's talk a little bit about the possibilities of using speech to text as a SSB skimmer. So I have many samples of audio recorded during contests. Me and Rich were India 49 mic in WRTC 2022, and we made a 1,000 plus QSOs on phone.
India 49 Mexico, you're 5928, good luck.
Italy 2/Delta Lima 1 Queen Queen.
Italy 2 stroke Delta Lima 1 Queen Queen, 5928.
5928. Good luck.
Thank you, India 49 Mexico.
Delta Lima 9 Alpha 0 Hotel Quebec.
9 Alpha 0 Hotel Quebec, 5928.
Roger 59 Hotel Radio Sierra.
Thank you.
Delta Lima 8.
So of that snippet, a couple words and not a full call sign was pulled out. But you can imagine starting, and this is by the best speech to text model I could find for decoding sideband bandwidth audio. However, it was able to pull some parts up. So again, this being a computer, you can start to think about mass production instead of just. You can imagine an SSB skimmer using the commercially available speech to text services. You can imagine receiving a 300 kilohertz slice of 15 meters phone and CQ worldwide. You can break that down into 152 kilohertz audio channels. Probably some non-AI smarts can recognize the suppressed carriers and slice it into 150 audio streams. You can send 30-second audio snippets to the cloud for speech to text. Look for repeated call signs across a minute or two on the same channel, possibly with the word CQ or contest thrown in. And once you've identified a CQer from repetition of the same call sign across a couple of minutes, maybe you raise the probability of it being a CQer when you hear CQ or contest immediately next to it. You send a spot to the cluster. There's a goal of latency between audio and a spot of about a minute. That'd be a reasonable goal. But you can start looking into the dollars. Speech to text with useful transcription models is about 1 cent per minute. Hey, that's cheap, 1 cent per minute. That's nothing. But then you think, oh, there's 150 audio channels on one band. That's $1.50 a minute. That's starting to add up. And then there's 48-hour contest, and there's at Solar Max, there's going to be 4 active bands at sometimes a day. That's $17,000 to skim 4 active bands. I think it's an interesting thing to do. It's a technology I plan to develop further. A very primitive version of this was actually active on the 10-meter band during the California QSO party. It made a dozen or so spots with a lot of hand-holding by me. So we've got a ways to go before this becomes a mass production. These are some of the results I've had using synthesized voice contesting. 2016 was definitely a pre-AI voice. It sounded very robotic, but since then I've been using AI-based voices, either neural or WaveNet models from Google. And over here, this shows the efforts that I've put in and pre-synthesizing call signs and serial numbers. Like I said, several gigabytes of audio pre-synthesized. Finally, let me play you a little snippet of Tina contesting in a foreign language. I took high school German almost half a century ago. I can understand letters and numbers pretty decently, and I was using Tina's voice in my phone operator.
Delta Alpha 2 Radio. Delta Alpha 2 Romeo 59 84 Nummer 84.
Roger 59 Uniform 14%.
Danke QAZ.
Delta Lima 0 going to Mike.
Delta
Lima, 0, Golf, Mike, 59, 85.
5, hello Mr. Robert, 59, Golf 07, Golf 07.
Ich bin ein Computerroboter. Ich heiße Tina, Tina.
Nice to meet you, Tina.
Thank you. I hope you've all enjoyed meeting Tina, and I'm very interested in any comments or feedback as to how we can use this technology in the future.
Thanks, Tim. Quick question here. On the text-to-speech channel, it looks like you were using cloud, right?
Google Cloud services. Yes, you can sign up for a Google Cloud account, but you can do some limited trials of it for free just using a web browser. If you want to start scripting with it, you have to sign up for an account to use the API.
What's the latency like on that kind of transaction?
That's actually very interesting. During the week, there's the latency. You can synthesize a call sign, say, in less than 200 milliseconds. That's not bad at all. During a weekend, and you can tell that there are customers paying Google to do this during the week, because the latency gets a lot shorter in the weekend when there's less resource competition. I can synthesize a call sign in a 20th of a second. So while I pre-synthesized all my call sign, you might start thinking, well, you don't have to pre-synthesize everything. If the latency is only 100 or 200 milliseconds, you can synthesize on demand as needed. And that's certainly possible. That's not what I did, but I think a very smart contesting program could accommodate that.
Tim, this is Jack W6FB. I've been following this since I first recognized Tina. Sometime early last year. And my comment is, wow, this is phenomenal. Now, on the Mac side, Apple has given us something that they call personal voice that they want to use for accessibility. And it has limitations so that it only goes out the main sound channel. But a couple of us are using it in Skookum Logger to try, and it just doesn't quite, I mean, some of the things that you've mentioned, we see. Having it give a question, a single word question, just doesn't come out as a question. But I guess from your viewpoint, and by the way, the thing that's amazing is the amount of horsepower isn't huge that's needed for this. It's synthesized on the computer itself. In fact, the training took about 10 to 15 minutes is all. But it's limited. Now, the question is, when do you see this coming into, instead of having it done on the Google systems, bringing it into your own?
That's a good question. I'm fine. If when I operated Florida QSO Party, I had to have everything pre-synthesized because I couldn't have reached out to the cloud when I was in the Everglades. There wasn't even hardly any cell phone connectivity. So I think that's possible. I'm not an expert in what has to be done. I can tell you that overall the computationally intensive task is training the AI. Actually using it to produce output after it's been trained seems relatively energy efficient. So you would think that could be done locally. So that's a good question. You also made a remark about getting the right intonations and inflections. That's I don't know if Apple's tools respond the same way as Google's tools. One of the reasons I chose Google Text-to-Speech is that I could put a question mark or an exclamation point at the end to make it sound like I was done and I'm turning it over to the other side. And because I had some ability to use SSML to tweak the voices so that if I was repeating my call sign twice, that it would sound different each time but still the same voice. You know, it's a rather natural thing to when you give a repeat to slightly alter your pitch.
With the Apple stuff, it's limited. We do have a question mark, but it needs to be in the end of a sentence. So just a single word doesn't do anything. But if you say, who is call, then it'll give you the question.
Yeah, even with the non-AI synthesizers I was using, 6, 7 years ago in my first NAQP synthesized attempt, one trick was to synthesize a longer thing that had the word at the right intonation, and then strip out everything except the right intonation that you wanted. That was a trick back then. I think that trick still has some usability today.
Okay. Tim, this is Andy, AE6Y. I want to congratulate you. I think it's wonderful. I worked Tina a few contests ago, and I thought it was really, and I said, wait a minute, his name is Tim. I know it. I've worked him 1,000 times. But in terms of, I used to do the synthesis in my own CQP Win program. I don't do it now, but I found that doing what you just said, cutting out a strip, worked well, but also simply recording a flat intonation and a falling one, like Quebec echo and Quebec echo, so that the falling intonation then is a natural turnover at the end. And that was a pretty good approximation, but I have to say you've gone way beyond that. I think that clearly there's a very bright future for this. So thanks for doing all this work. Thanks for explaining it so clearly.
Thanks for working Tina on the air. Every time I make a QSO, I learn something. I've been a ham almost 50 years now, and finally, thanks to the effort I put into Tina, I think I'm starting to learn how to be a phone contester. Starting.
I have a question. This is Dave WD6T.
Hey,
for the for the speech to text, I assume that there's a way where you can tell it the most likely words.
That's right. My experience is mostly with the Google speech to text tools, and several of the options there allow you to give it. For example, if you were doing medical transcription, you would give it a list of medical words that it would be weighted towards. But for contesting, it would be standard phonetics, slightly different phonetics, the words and cue codes that you use on the air. And I've done some with that. I have to say that that's an area I plan on putting a lot of effort into in the coming year.
Hey, Tim Barry, I have a question. And maybe this is a follow-up from what David just said. So you have all the standard things. So if a person asks you a question in a contest, and it's not one of the, like an array contest on my keyboard, if it's not one of the regular ones, I would just say whatever I'd say, or in CW, just send it. So what happens through this? Would you just type a few things and it would synthesize it out?
I have some limited ability to make a new macro during a contest, but I didn't actually do that during WPX Fun. I did that during some NAQPs when I was just learning my way around. And I really need a message for this or that. So I would make a new message and assign it to a function tree. However, let me show you what I can do with Stream Deck.
Cool.
This might play over. So you can see my Stream Deck here. This is the CQ page. I'm not sure you'll hear this. Let me hit it and see what happens. You don't. Okay, it's not active at the moment. Oh, and 1mm isn't even running. But the yes button is Roger Roger. No is negative no. I can ask for a repeat of the number a couple different ways. I can ask for a call sign a couple different ways. Let's see over here. In the search and pounce pane, I got many similar things. I can thank somebody by name. I can, if I work a fellow PVRCer, I can hit Go PVRC. And under I'm a robot, if I start getting the heckler or somebody inquiring what I'm doing, this is a sentence that explains that, hey, there's a human in the shack with me, but yes, this is AI synthesized voice that you're hearing and being used in a contest, or it might explain the rules of the contest to somebody. Here in PVRC land, sweepstakes is a big deal. Walking somebody through a sweepstakes exchange with just pre-synthesized prompts is probably possible. I'll have to think about that come November.
Oh boy.
I just want to say one time, some long number of years ago, Rick, the Locust, had everything pre-programmed. Maybe he was using the as you type, it speaks. And I'm saying, hey, Rick, how you doing today? And we have a thing called KB, Kick Buddy. He says, KB, KB, KB. And I'm thinking, like, what's he saying? So I asked him later, he says he had laryngitis and he had pre-recorded everything. So it's fascinating. Really a great presentation. Thank you.
I want to point out that while I advertise the fact that I'm using a synthesized voice, there are a couple top tier contesters who are already doing SO2R with their own voice synthesized. They're hotshot contesters. They're running on 2 radios at the same time. They can be completing a QSO with transmissions on one band while using their ears on a different band.
Just one other. Let me just ask one other quick follow-up. Thank you. When the other gentleman was saying, that's not really AI because you're pre-recording. I mean, that's probably perspective. Is this really any, as far as what he was saying, is this really any different than not using any AI, recording the stuff, going into a video, an audio editor, tweaking the, the levels and all the stuff? Because in some ways, I'm not sure that it's that much different other than it's creating a new voice.
I think that's possible. The AI, having a very good synthesizer, whether it's AI or not, is, I think, an advantage. I don't think my personal voice, human voice, is all that great for contesting. And I've done enough work with the Google text-to-speech voices. I just said, oh, this one's really good for contesting. I said, oh yeah, I'll apply these levels of post-processing. And you can argue that, well, you put work into that, Tim, so it's not AI. This is the result of all your work. Okay. I don't know how to bridge that. Where does it stop being AI because I put a lot of work into it? It really is an AI technology trained on a real human other than me, which is the basis of my work.
What
I have sorry.
What I think these guys are really going after, because it's time for us to think about it, is the exact thing of the computer recognizing the voice. And to me, that's true AI, and we're not far from that being able to happen. But what you've done,
like I said, in the California QSO party, with some hand holding by me, a couple dozen spots were issued by me that were actually AI generated.
No.
I have a comment. A couple NAQPs ago, I did the bare bones, easy version of SO2R with recording all the letters and numbers and all the prefixes and some suffixes. And I basically went through the log from the previous year, and I looked at any prefix that had more than 2 people and recorded. But anyway, the biggest problem I had, I mean, I did well, but didn't win. But the biggest problem was just how different people, the people who called you would talk. So, unlike CW, yeah, you get some slow callers, but here you can get, some people really slow. And meanwhile, the guy on the other, radio is waiting for you, and it's challenging.
I will agree that WPX phone, I put an effort into having special slow voices. So let's look at my stream deck here. If I'm searching pounds and I want to, and I know the guys that, if I'm calling N2IC, I'm going to hit the fast button, because anything else I'm wasting, or if it's you, I'm wasting your time if I say something slow. But if it's somebody who's clearly, not experienced and won't recognize my call the first time around, I got a couple different ways of pronouncing my call sign slow. Similarly, for giving numbers, the fast one is the fastest way I could possibly think about pronouncing it. Slow is a slower way of pronouncing it. We're actually running at 80% of speed. That's a lesson I learned from the NAQPs. I don't think it's as important in the NAQPs where the exchange is very repetitive as it is in a serial number contest.
Yeah.
Serial number contest was a great acid test.
Right. It comes up with if you have 2 radios, because you can get a fast guy on one side and a slow guy on the other side. That messes things up.
Yep. I certainly know that the good guys at SO2R, I can work 2 guys on one radio while the slow guys give me something on the first radio.
Right.
So Tim, is one 15 key whatever the pad is called. I've got one also, but is that enough? I'm finding I want a second one and maybe a third one.
The programming of my Stream Deck, I had to put some thought into what I want. I have two different pages. I do agree 15 keys isn't really enough for everything I did, but I have a running page and I have a search and pounce page. And sometimes I have to bounce from one to the other, but it's not a big deal because it's just that little button in the corner. For me, the big advantage of Stream Deck, I made 500,000 QSOs using nothing other than F1 through F5. So I know those buttons very well. After you get past F5, my brain doesn't work so good anymore. And having the button brightly labeled and even color coded on the Stream Deck is a huge advantage for me for hitting all those alternate messages and pronunciations. It's just a huge advantage for me. I don't think there's anything wrong going with a bigger Stream Deck. 15, I felt comfortable doing most things using 15. But if you wanted to have more, conversational ability, launch queries, answer queries, it's possible 15 wouldn't be enough for sweepstakes because there's so many. It's such a long exchange, right?
Yeah.
If you want to know more about Stream Deck integration with N1MM, Tom N1MM himself launched into that in January of this year. And I didn't really follow everything he was saying, but there's all kinds of stuff, including this UDP RCMD command set built into N1MM, which is nearly undocumented other than the emails he wrote in January. And that was essential for me making use of all these functions. And again, most of my Stream Deck buttons, many of them have 2 or 3 or 4 different ways of saying the same thing that I cycle through. It sounds a little more natural to, at least have some slightly different pronunciations and phrasings.
From a user interface perspective of sitting at the radio, having the keyboard and having the Stream Deck, you find it pretty easy to move your fingers around and push the buttons and come back to the keyboard?
If I set my Stream Deck right at the top of the keyboard, it's not too bad.
It's right there.
Yeah. All that said, anything that requires you to move your hands from the home position is, slowing you down.
Is there such thing as a Stream Deck, conceptually a Stream Deck bigger keyboard or a bigger keyboard that you can map some of the extra keys into the Stream Deck concept?
That's possible. You'll notice that my preferred contest keyboard is actually it's like a 75% keyboard. It's not a full keyboard. And again, that's part of that reason is that I can never remember what all those extra buttons are for, unless it says it in very bright contest words what they're for. But if you want, you can go look up the term is battleship keyboards. These are keyboards with huge swaths of extra mechanical function keys. So if you want to explore that territory, you can Google battleship keyboards.
Tim, this is A6Y again. Quick question, unrelated, about your station. You always do well in contests, and you're always loud here, particularly on 40 meters. I'm curious what you actually have. Do you actually have wire antennas? I think that's what you report.
All my antennas are wire antennas. If you've worked me on 40, very likely, I have an 80-meter doublet. I'm not sure how much you can see in the corner here. That's where the tuners are by the window that leaks some water in our recent thunderstorm. There's different tuners, so it's an 80-meter doublet fed with ladder line. The ladder line comes down in the basement, and I have different tuners for each band, link coupled tuners for each band. That lets me use the high antenna on different bands. I also in the past year have put up a number of lower antennas, especially for 10, 15, 20, and 40, that let me do some multi-2 efforts. So some of the times I've been using Tina multi-2 from my shack. At the 100-watt level, I don't have fancy filtering or anything like that, but at the 100-watt level, the 2 radios can live in the same shack being operated by people. And like I said, the primary qualification, if you want to come over and operate Tina as part of a multi-2 effort here, you have to be a really good typist. And I'm pretty happy about the people I've chosen to come over and operate.
Well, your results are very impressive, particularly for wire antennas. It's kind of amazing.
Contests like WPX are a lot of fun for me. The DX contests where you really only need a beam pointed to Europe 99% of the time and you're on the East Coast, I can do okay in them. But once it opens up to being a RTTY contest or a WPX contest where everybody works everybody, I feel like I got plenty of activity going on.
You know, Tim, you need to get away. You need to be there to operate it, but you need to be able to listen to Tina from someplace a ways away from it. Down here in Louisiana, Tina now sounds very natural. I mean, I watched, listened to it, and David D6T and I had a email discussion about it a few months ago when the first time I heard Tina, but she is very good sounding at this point.
Yep.
You've done a fantastic job.
Thank you. Like I said, some of the compliments I got, can I go backwards here? I'm proud of some of these compliments. I could understand the voice perfectly, unlike everyone else that I couldn't understand. I can tell you that when I was setting it up and doing some of the testing and the audio post-processing, I very often used remote receivers to listen to what my own signal sounded like over the air. That gave me the confidence to do my processing at the audio level and turn off the rigs processor because I felt I got a better sound with better suffocation and more intelligibility that way. So again, you know, if an AI did all this work for me, you know, maybe a rule saying that AI puts you in some other category would make sense. But I put a massive amount of work into this. Let me talk about, you know, the first time I set it up, I spent a couple hours and I just had, you know, a couple macros and the 26 letters and the 10 digits. Since when I was setting up for WPX phone, I took the experience from all the previous contests, rolled it together, and spent 20 or 30 hours in the week before pre-synthesizing all my files, deciding, oh, this is working good. Oh, no, this isn't going to work. You're going to need an alternate for that. It's a non-trivial amount of work. Certainly I can tell you that here on the East Coast, there's a number of guys who come to me saying, Tim, I want you to have a computer program that does all that work for me and just gives me a bunch of WAV files. And well, you know, I have my WAV files. I can share them with you. You'll sound just like Tina. But these guys aren't even good typists. So they can't really make use of it. I don't think at this point it's ready for everybody. But you could imagine, you know, loggers starting to incorporate a lot of the smarts, people having standard, you know, we have standard canned macros for all the contests from most of the contesting programs. You can imagine, oh, this is a good set of canned macros for this contest if you're using a synthesizer that obeys this SSML, for example. You can imagine getting there. I think we're a little bit from there, but you know, I think it would be sad if everybody did things exactly the same way I did. I'm glad that there are other people using synthesis. I didn't share any of their calls today. There are other people using synthesis. You might not even know that they were using synthesis because it's their own voice, just optimized and run through an AI library that learned their voice.
No, some of them you can tell. How much storage does this take?
The complete set of SuperCheck partials takes about 1 gigabyte of disk space after processing the 8 kilohertz wave files.
You have that on SSD or spinning?
When I went to Florida with my $120 laptop, it was on the SSD that's built into the laptop.
Okay.
You know, 1 gigabyte isn't a lot in modern terms.
Right.
All that said, just transferring the gigabyte onto that little laptop took a little while.
Yeah.
As a practical matter, I do almost all my batch processing on a Linux machine. Then I zip it up into a bunch of WAV files, move them over the net as a zip file and unzip it. Unzipping, you know, 70,000 files has some overhead. Some people have said, Tim, aren't you worried about the Windows overhead of a directory with 70,000 files in it? Turns out that modern Windows file systems incur very little penalty, even with that number of files in one directory. Certainly, historically, there have been file systems that have
Mhm.
trouble with even a couple hundred files in one directory.
Hey, Tim, does N1MM like hash all the file names up front, or does it just look them up when you type it in?
There's a checkbox that if you do it, it's not obvious that it tries to do it, but it tries to sort of pre-check all your every WAV file in the directory and sort of hash them not into memory but into some data structure. And that works fine if you got a couple dozen or 50 or maybe even 100 WAV files. It does not work if you have 70,000. If you hit that button, your computer goes out to lunch and you gotta start over.
I see. So when you type in a call sign, it's going out and finding that file right then and there.
Yeah, let me sort of show you, let's go back to a demo here. You can see in this demo what it's doing. This is the file that it's actually playing. And you can see let me skip to.
November 3 Quebec Echo, Norway 3 Queen Ecuador, CQ contest.
So this is the
CQ from N3QE, November 3 Quebec Echo.
configure N1MM audio pane here, you see here.
Kilo 3, Lima Romeo, Tina, TINA.
So
November 3 Quebec Echo, Norway 3 Queen Ecuador, CQ contest.
Yeah, but K3LR, with most loggers, you can start typing a call sign. I had typed K3LR, but I had hit return after typing K3. So K3 and LR were prefix and suffix, even though K3LR is obviously in supercheck partial. And again, that's not the worst thing in the world, but being a fast typist lets you type in the whole call sign and get the most optimal version of the call sign before you hit return. So there's some give and takes, and you sort of timing things you have to learn as you're hitting function buttons playing the audio.
Hey, Tim, I have a question. Can you go back to that prior little screen of the contest you did?
Sure.
Yeah.
So a couple of them are multi-two, and let me just explain this question. Is it you yourself and a neural net another person? Is it two of you? And if it is two of you and N3QE with different name sounds, how do you put that in the in the law? Not all that minutia, you know what I mean?
Okay, so each of these multi-twos actually, there were actually two human operators in the shack at some points in time. Both operators are using Tina's voice, the same set of macros.
So
there are two different computers.
Two different call signs?
No, it's
a
multi-two.
Multi-two. One call sign.
Yeah, so one call sign, two operators, but it was both operators were using the same voice.
Wow, that's like I'm trying to get my head wrapped around that.
And while much of the time there were two operators in the shack, there was time when there was just me in the shack, and I had my stereo headphones on, and I was working two keyboards.
Oh, I get it. Nobody says when you have a multi-two how long each person has to be there. I mean, I get it. It's just a little bit. It's like you got to shift the perspective in the mind to figure out what's going on, because the whole thing's like skewed a little, or could be skewed.
The fact, if somebody was listening to both bands we were on at the same time, they might think, wow, they got twins operating that station or something, right? Because the voices are exactly the same.
But that's I don't think that's a lot of difference than, say, SO2R, where you got one person on both bands.
Yeah. That's true. None of these attempts I did here were SO2R. I think there's a real advantage if you can do SO2R. The WPX phone was a little bit of some SO2V. When my run was slowing down, I was picking off CQers on the second VFO.
When you were doing that example in the German in this Workbelt Germany, are you able to understand enough German to make sense of this?
German, yes. I had high school German almost 50 years ago, and the language hasn't changed too much since then. Most of the guys would come back to me in English anyway, because English is kind of the standard language. But I can tell you, I've listened to many recordings of CQ Worldwide inside Europe. There's Russians working Russians in Russia. I've operated at multis here on the East Coast, where we had one or two ringer operators who actually knew a number of European languages and could. I think that entices more callers when they hear an accent and
Yeah, and
a voice. One possibility
oh,
is to turn Tina into a multi-language ringer.
yeah.
If you get a DL caller, you come back in a German accent with
Yeah, stand by.
German
I'm doing some goofy stuff.
with German words and German numbering and German exchanges, and then instantly switch into Russian when you get a Russian caller.
Even if
Now I only know German, so I felt comfortable doing Worked All Germany using a German language voice. But even then, they would come back to me in English because that's sort of the standard.
But even if it's a English and you have a JA, an Asian JA flavor of English, they can't say Lima, it's Rima, things
Yeah,
like that.
I know.
And
Rima Papa Rima. I've operated at Rima Papa Rima a lot. Yes.
but using the what do you call it? Using the English, the accents within English of the other things. Fascinating. Thank you so much.
Let me tell you, the bane of my existence is getting a Welsh caller. Okay, because you might think it's English, but your English skills are almost non-existent when you're trying to work a guy who's from Wales. Okay. That's the most challenging thing of all. I try to explain to people that, oh yeah, I can work Russians, I can work Germans, but a Welsh caller, oh man, that's difficult, man.
What does it take? What do you do to train someone new to come in and operate your station, Bettina?
The multi-two efforts I've done, the people I've chosen are decent hams. They aren't advanced operators, but the prerequisite that I think is most important, they have to have absolutely superb keyboard skills, that's completely necessary. One thing I learned by doing this and listening to the guys coming back to me, after you start giving it 3 and especially 4-digit numbers, serial numbers, many of the guys will read back the number as so I'm running, I give them their number and then I wait for them to give me my number. But first they give me my number back to me.
Yes.
That's because they're still typing it in. And my brain can certainly store a number or call sign or a couple numbers and a couple call signs, but not all operators are capable of that. Again, typing is a very important skill. I don't want to say that it's more important than other contesting skills and selecting operators, but that's always been, when I've operated the TINA multi-twos, that's always been a completely necessary skill set. So I tend to invite people who are, computer nerds, really good at typing.
Do you spend time ahead of time with them?
I pretty much just throw them in the deep end.
Oh, boy.
So I might start the NAQP by myself on the East Coast. The first couple hours of an NAQP are a little slow here on the East Coast till things start moving to the low bands. So they show up an hour in. I let them watch me. I try to I try to make a little map of what the function keys do. This was before I haven't done a 2 Stream Deck operation yet. It's challenging to remember buttons past F1 through F5. So you may have all kinds of useful queries and confirmations and fills on the higher buttons, but you really need to have them well labeled. That's important.
Yeah. Whoever figured out that you just take an LCD, a touchscreen LCD, and you put buttons, things that look like buttons on it. That was a genius move.
Yeah, I actually thought that they were 15 buttons that had little LCDs inside of them. No, it's one LCD screen with 15 rubber buttons, rubber transparent buttons kind of overlaid over it. It's I don't know about the lifetime of the buttons. I don't think I'll wear one out anytime soon.
So Tim, I got to cut out, but this is spectacular work. Very, very impressive.
Yeah, and thank you. And again, some people will tell me, Tim, you put so much work into it. It's not AI anymore. And that might be true, but really it is AI at the core. These are voices trained, and I think having a good voice is an important part of being a phone contester.
Well, I've always felt that way, and I did a little radio commercially on the air as a jock, and obviously working in pro audio, I have a great feel for what you've done with signal processing. It's what I've always recommended: get rid of the low end and use some good compression, and not too much. So everything you're doing is very impressive, very logical, and kind of overwhelming. So thanks very much, and I'm gone.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed learning all these technologies. I've learned a little bit more about how to be a phone cost tester by doing all this.
Yeah.
And Tim, when you called me at NR60 during WPX, and you're the only caller that made me break out and laugh. I've worked you so many times, to have the Tina voice call you in WPX caused me to absolutely erupt in laughter. So thanks for that.
Excellent.
Breaking
Excellent.
my run.
Excellent. Unfortunately, I could say Tina's operating CW, but nobody would ever know. What can I say?
Let's save that for NAQP, right?
NAQ, I'm starting to look around for operators for NAQP phone already. Yes. Multi-2. Multi-2 is the way to do it, man. That's so much more fun.
Oh, I see. Soon you're going to drive the people nuts. You're still using, as I recall, Tim in CW. And that's going to be confusing because now which call history are in the system.
Tina has leaked, VE2FK makes the history files for N1MM, and several times Tina has leaked into the CW history files he produces. Overall, I think he's doing a great job, but history files do have problems in that they're built on the contributors to the next generation of history files are people who use history files. So after a mistake gets in there, it tends to be self-propagating. When in the year run up for WRTC 2022, Rich and me turned off all history files, no matter if whether most contests allow them. I think we were actually more accurate by doing that.
K1GQ hates history files, so Skookum Logger for the Mac, forget it. You're not going to use the history file.
Okay. Okay. At the same time, everybody doing a CWT is using history files.
But, from my perspective, thank God they're there, because I moved from California to Louisiana, and it really helped that people were using those files.
Oh, yeah. Louisiana isn't the most common multiplier either. So if somebody knows if somebody's using assistance and their logger knows that, hey, you're a new molt in Louisiana, that's great.
Yeah.
Thank you all for this opportunity. If you were at the Dayton presentation, you would have seen a slightly abbreviated version of the talk, and we wouldn't have had time for all this QA. Thank you all for the QA. That's been wonderful.
Thanks, Tim. Thank you. Fantastic work. I really appreciate
it. Any of this crowd going to be at Dayton? I'm curious. Too big a trip?
Some.
Okay. All right. I'll make it out to the West Coast again sometime, and I'll visit one of your functions.
Thanks a bunch.
Great presentation.
Thank you, guys. You're a great audience. Thank you.